Just a quick check with the audience first before we get going. How many people here have a podcast? Yay. That's a good number. How many people are thinking of starting a podcast? Nice. So I'm sure everyone wants to get right into, how to make money. It's a key component of having a podcast. You really want to be able to pay for all of the hosting and services. But I think we should probably start with the community side of it. Myself working with the Canadian Podcast Awards and PodCamp Toronto for the last 16 years. Community has been a big part of our identity and our DNA. And we also see that it's really something that's key to having a successful podcast, having that sort of community. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. And there are two kinds of community that we're probably going to be talking here today. The community of your peers, other podcasters in the industry, and the community of your listeners. Michael, how important are each of these communities to the growth of your podcast?
I was listening, but I'm just going to ask for clarification. You're talking about the communities of the peers and the listeners?
Yep.
They're both very important. I think, using your peers, utilizing the community and interacting with your peers is great for show growth. Guest swaps. I'll guest on your show, you guest on mine. It exposes them to your audience and vice versa. So that helps a lot with growth and with kind of showing yourself to new people, and just being part of a community and being engaged with your listeners as well obviously helps a lot. People feeling included as part of the show. If they email you and you read their email on your show or something like that, they feel like they're part of the show, and and that's something that we always encourage is engaging with your listeners. And that's, that's something that some shows do well and some shows don't. And you can see the difference it makes when you are just being there. Because podcasting is such an intimate thing. Listeners feel kind of connected to the hosts. So engaging with them is important, I think. So,
yeah, I agree. Heather, how much does community affect monetization?
Good question. I mean, the larger the community that you have developed, the more opportunity for monetization. The goal is to build as much reach as possible, but the more loyal your audience is, the more likely an advertiser will derive success from advertising within your podcast and return to advertise again and hopefully continue to spend with you based upon that community that you've built with your audience.
And how big does a podcast have to be before you even start thinking about monetization?
That's a very good question, and we get asked that question quite a bit. The short answer, of course, is the larger your audience is, the more money you can make. If you've got a massive audience, advertisers will want to be part of that and benefit from the reach. But that doesn't mean that a smaller podcast cannot be monetized. I actually read a stat yesterday that smaller podcasts tend to have higher stickiness and loyalty and tend to work better for advertisers because that community is smaller and oftentimes more loyal, which is counter to the idea that you need a big audience. You don't want to lose sight of growing the reach, and that should be part of the goal, but I wouldn't want to discourage anyone that a small podcast doesn't have monetization opportunities.
So being sort of a niche podcast is kind of almost a superpower. You have a very dedicated audience.
Yeah, if you look at it, I'm just going to use a bad example, but if you had a knitting podcast, obviously very niche for a very specific community. But if you made wool, you could advertise on that very niche podcast, and you wouldn't have a lot of waste. So the money you spent would be directly proportioned to the amount of people that you reached, but you'd be reaching such a high concentration of your likely audience that it makes sense. So oftentimes a media buyer who's an advertising agency, that their job is to place their clients' ads on, websites or podcasts or television, will include a bunch of larger reach media vehicles, whether it's like buying YouTube for video or buying a massive podcast to get that reach, but will often pepper it with smaller, more niche podcasts to round out the buy and make it more impactful.
And with niche podcasts, it might be a little bit harder to find that community. I know Amazon and Acast are working on some opportunities to help discover these communities. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we're working on a project together that'll probably roll out in Canada in October-ish. And basically, we want to highlight more independent Canadian podcasters. And so people who are hosted on Acast, who put their podcast on Amazon Music, we're going to be featuring them in some collections on Amazon Music, on Podcast Home. So over a month, each week we'll feature new podcasters who kind of participated in this program. And it's a way, I think we both want to help indie podcasters find their audience, and it's kind of hard in all that noise to be featured, especially in different services like Amazon Music. So we want to have a dedicated space for a while where people can find these podcasts and these podcasts can find their audience.
That's great. And I know Amazon, we talked a little bit about how you do some opportunities for, smaller podcasts to maybe get more reach through things like billboards in Yonge and Dundas Square and stuff like that, these amazing opportunities. Is that available for everyone, or is it just?
So one of my goals, at Amazon Music, is to connect, and also in my role before, is I really want to connect Canadians to the content they want to hear, and oftentimes that is Canadian content, and it's not super easy to find Canadian content because people want to reach a US market, so they don't always mark their podcast as Canadian, so it's not easy to find local content. So I really try to I have several collections which sort of highlight local Canadian creators on Amazon Music, so they're easier to find for people who want to listen, and also so these Canadian podcasters can find their audience. So if people want to work with us, they just have to reach out to me. I have an email address I'll give you at the end, where you can just write me, let me know about new series, let me know if you have special seasonal episodes, because we put together seasonal collections, seasonal pages, and there's always opportunity there to connect with a new audience. Also, if you have a big guest, that kind of stuff we can feature. We also have in-app billboards that we can feature. We have Amazon, as you might know, is a very broad company, so we have many different channels we can use that are outside of Amazon Music as well to reach an audience. And of course we have the big billboards on Yonge and Dundas Square. Those are for bigger shows, but I feature almost exclusively Canadian shows there too, to try to connect with the Canadian audience and help Canadian shows grow in the Canadian podcast community.
That's awesome. It's a really great opportunity for anyone who can get up on those billboards.
Yes.
And everyone can just get it, right?
Everyone can have a billboard.
They just got to ask.
You just gotta ask.
You just gotta ask.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised, how many billboards have come out that way. We've featured our best opportunity to get on that billboard. If you're in India, is the best of the year. We do a best of the year campaign, and we did a halfway best of the year so far. And Expectant is an indie podcast, and that was front and center on our Yonge and Dundas billboard in July.
That's great.
That's awesome. Heather, what are the metrics people should be taking note of when they're starting their podcast to determine, if it's ready for monetization, if, they should start looking at it? Is it are you looking at downloads per month? Are you looking at, retention, stuff like that?
It's a whole bunch of everything. Once you create your podcast and you get onto a monetization platform, obviously, I'm with Acast, but once you're on our platform, you'll automatically start getting included in collections we have. So if your podcast is sports, for example, you'll be put into sports collections. So, you should be part of that monetization engine quite quite quickly. It's the host reads that are a little bit more labor intensive, and that's where the host talks about a product. But, you know, in metrics, obviously you want to pay attention to downloads, listens. You know, where are people listening from? We've got, you know, a bunch of great examples of Canadian podcasters that have really insane audiences in Australia. It's like, what? But because they're on a global platform like an Acast, we have sales teams in Australia who can monetize the listens in Australia. So it's important that, you know, you work with partners that can take advantage of your audience, no matter where it is globally. You know, I think people should pay attention to things outside of their podcast, like their social channels. What drives social engagement? Is it when you release a podcast episode and you interview people and all of a sudden you see a boost on your socials? That's information I would pay attention to. Or conversely, when do people drop off? And what is it? Is it when you have some sort of feature segment and people drop off? Well, then that's a message that you're getting in that regard as well. So there's so much to dig into. When I started in podcasting not so long ago, there was very few metrics that we had. I came from the digital sphere at CBC, and you could pretty much measure where people's eyes were like every second, everything was measurable. So we got to podcasting, and it was dialed back a little bit, but you know, there is so much to dig into and pay attention to and glean. It's interesting and exciting.
That's great information. Do you think there has been sort of a shift as people have got more used to monetization and podcasting? You know, oh, interesting. That people are more accepting of ads, or is there like a perception shift now that, you know, maybe host-read ads are better than dynamic ads, or has that shifted a bit around?
There's, you know, I think, well, a bunch of different things. Podcasting has remained quite special in that we, you know, it's almost like we haven't ruined it.
Yeah.
You know, I came from, again, a digital space where we sold video and display, and, you know, you'd have to sit through 4 pre-rolls before you got to a 2-minute news clip. And and that was part of my attraction to leaving all of digital and getting into podcasting, because it's special. The ad load, and especially when you compare it to like terrestrial radio, is a fraction. When you do hear host reads, it should feel organic, and the host should ideally actually care about the product. You know, often we're sending the product to our podcasters to try it, to sample it, and we want to know they believe in it. We also have a lot of podcasters that say, no, I'm sorry, this particular brand doesn't align with my personal values, and we are like, perfect, because we want that authenticity, because that is what is typically more accepted. And as for the efficacy of host-read versus ad, you know, that there is something special about that host-read when it does land in a real way. But because of the lack of clutter, a 30-second spot can be pretty effective too, and well tolerated, because, like I said, people generally understand that in exchange for free content, there needs to be some sort of exchange of, and in this case, it would be advertising, but it's a respectful amount and well tolerated.
And to get to that point, you have to find advertisers. And I know Sonar started with just a few podcasts, and now you're, you know, a huge network. How did you start finding advertisers for the shows on your network?
Yeah, it was, you know, it's not easy when you're just kind of doing it on your own. And when we started, we were definitely significantly smaller, but the landscape was very different back then too. So the best way to find, I mean, if you want to just do programmatic ads, like kind of YouTube style ads that just get inserted automatically, you know, anyone can do that no matter your size. You're not going to make much, but it's an option. Lots of services like Acast you can do that. But if you're talking about like host-read ads, you know, we have a link on our website that says if you want to advertise with us, email. We get emails there occasionally, but the most success is just like that we've had is just our sales team pounding the pavement, and going out and looking at things like looking at YouTube and listening to podcasts and see who's spending right now. Okay, let's contact them. If they haven't contacted us already, then that's a good lead, potential lead, and then, going from there.
And getting back to like the community a bit more, I know we've talked a little bit about, how podcasters can see each other as competition, but they are kind of really more of a resource for each other than they are competition. People think, oh, this podcast is similar to mine, like, let's try and beat them into the ground. I don't want to have anything to do with them. But, it can be more helpful
Yeah.
to work with them.
Definitely. Looking at other, and forgive my language, looking at other podcasts as competitive is stupid. And I'm sorry. No, but I think, I personally feel, and I come from the mentality that, like, there's really not any competition in podcasting. There's, at least from our perspective, there's so many podcasts out there. I forget the number, but it's always going up, obviously. But it's millions. There's over 5 million at least, last time I checked. And so it's like, I don't look at other podcasts that are similar to a podcast that we have as like, oh, I hate them and I want them to fail. I will contact them and be like, hey, let's work together, do a collaboration of some kind. We can do a guest swap, promo swap. We can, maybe do like feed drop, or where you drop an episode on their feed and vice versa. Like, we're similar. That means that we share a similar audience. So why not use that rather than like, get mad at each other and just hold a grudge. Like the great Mike the Situation once said, holding a grudge is like eating poison and expecting the other person to die. So,
Who said that?
Mike the Situation Sorrentino from Jersey Shore.
I thought he said Jim Laundry or what?
Oh yeah, Jim Tan Laundry. That was another amazing quote from an amazing man.
Wise words. So how much does community cost? Like, is there a price tag to all this, or is it just free goodwill, Lindsay?
A lot of it's free goodwill, honestly. And like, I just want to add, like, beyond the business benefits to community, which are vast, there's also creative benefits. I mean, when I was making more audio, like the best moments and the places I learned the most are when like audio communities come together. Like for a long time, there was a group in Toronto called Radio Club where everyone like met and made audio, and then there's like conferences like the Hot Docs Podcast Festival and your conference, and then
Podcamp Toronto.
Thank you, Podcamp Toronto. It just like left my mind. Podcamp Toronto, and then there was Third Coast for a while in Chicago. So there's all sorts of places where you can go and meet other like-minded people and learn. And like Podcamp Toronto, I was there this year and I learned so much. There was a huge conference in the US like a few weeks before, and like all the same keynotes were there for like available with a much smaller group, and you could ask them questions directly. Like there's so many learning experiences to build community, and that a lot of it is free, and like also just like reaching out to someone who has a similar show to you, that's free. You can learn so much from the people around you in terms of craft, and then also in terms of business. You can help each other grow.
Is there a space that you watch online to like discover these events or community resources, or it just sort of organically comes across your desk?
That's a great question. I think as far as I know, like I don't know of a space. Maybe you do. You would be actually better positioned to know of a digital space than I would.
Well, you can always follow us at the Camp Art Awards
There you go.
on Instagram and Twitter. But yeah, there are events happening all the time. There's a meetup happening next week here in the city. PodCamp may be coming up again in February. So
Nice.
always happy to have people there and help build community in the city and across the country, which I think all three of you are really doing really well right now, is helping to build Canadian podcasting community and amplify Canadian voices. And at our organization, we love to see that sort of thing. The Americans below us, they are a big, sort of elephant in the bed, and they tend to overshadow a lot of the stuff that we do here. So it's really important that, more Canadian voices get heard.
Yeah, and I think working together is great, and it's free, and it just helps the whole community grow.
I think we'll probably open the floor to some questions if there are any questions. There should be a microphone on the side there. Oh, you have it? Okay. Yeah, just bring it to anyone.
Hi, thank you so much for talking today. It was really interesting. I have a question about video. We do a lot of podcasts in Australia, where I'm from, and we find now like we can't do it without video. Like we film every single episode, and we're using that for content across socials, or now Spotify obviously supports video distro as well. So I'm just curious to hear, is video a must-have for you guys as well, and what role does video play now in what is normally an audio, medium?
Who's that for?
Anyone.
It's for all. It's for all. Whoever wants to answer.
I'll say, like, if, in our network, not all of our creators have video versions and are doing video, companion to their audio. But if you can do it, it's definitely helps. I mean, YouTube is a lot better at discoverability than any podcast platform is, in my opinion, with the algorithm and just suggesting things and this kind of thing. So yeah, we definitely see that even if you're just using video to drive people to the audio, we see people have a lot of success that way too. So if you can do it, I think it's not going to hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, and the monetization opportunities are a bit different on video as well. Does anyone have any experience with that, or?
Yeah, it's video. It's obviously a timely question. Everybody's talking about it. I'm of a school that I only listen to audio. That's just very personal. I listen when I walk. I listen when I drive. Video is never part of it. I think video doesn't always make sense, and you shouldn't do it just to turn a camera on. It really depends if to me, if the video adds something and enhances the experience. But for a lot of our podcasters, video means an entirely different thing. It's now you've got a camera on you, so then there's, what is the camera looking at? Is it, you've got to be made up. If that's important to you, you've got to have, is it cutaways? Is it extra video footage? Like, it is a whole other kit and caboodle to add video. And so I'm of the thinking that unless it makes sense and adds something to it, I wouldn't, and I think you can have a flourishing podcast career without it. And the monetization piece is different because, you're now on a video platform that doesn't sell for that video platform. So it opens up a lot of different questions, and I think if it makes sense and adds something to it, then it should be explored. But I personally don't think you should shoehorn in video just for the sake of having video on your podcast if it doesn't organically feel like it is a natural fit.
Next question.
Hi, thank you again. My name's James. I'm an audio engineer, and we're getting a lot more requests for podcasts these days. We're mainly in broadcast, so this is a bit of a new thing for us. We feel we do a pretty good job, but we're always sort of wondering how we can add more value, how we can make the creators feel like when they're giving us their baby, they feel confident with us. So what are some things that you guys as creators look for in post-production services or audio guys to make them feel good? And I guess for all the creators out there, how can they feel confident, passing it over when they're wanting to go up to that level of getting some more post-production services in that regard? That's for everybody.
I guess Michael probably is the only content producer up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Can you simplify the question?
Sure. Oh. I guess what I'm saying is, what do you look for when it comes to passing that on to post-production? What makes you go, okay, let's go with these guys to help us with the podcast as opposed to
What do we look for when we're looking for podcasts to choose? To
outsource podcasting production.
To outsource podcast production?
Yeah.
What do we look for?
Yes.
Well, if people want to pay for it, then we will do it. Pretty much. No, I mean we will when we're talking about on the so we're mostly largely we're a podcast network, but we do also do production services as well. So for that side of the business, yeah, if someone comes to us and looking for a project, you know, we will do a lot of discovery with them and map out the project, see what makes sense, you know, map out the format, the structure, everything like that, before, like, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it before we even start, you know, turning on the recording. But it's very different, right? If it's fiction, you know, there'd be maybe a lot more writing, and we need to build the script first and get it all written before we start. Or if it's something more casual interview style, maybe there's less pre-production. So it does vary from project to project, which I know is a bad answer.
But you don't really outsource your production to anyone else.
Oh, that's the question. No.
Yes.
No, we do our production. Either we produce it in-house, or or the shows or the creators produce and edit their own shows. So yeah.
Next question.
A lot of the folks here do scripted web series, and the bread and butter podcast has really been interview, talking head, etc. Have you guys started seeing a growth in scripted? Do you think there's a big growth coming in scripted for podcasts?
I think scripted, we love scripted. I think the reason there's probably not as much is just because of the barrier to entry and just the level of effort required. Because you have, like I said, you have to write it. You have to write the whole thing, and you need writers and you know, reviewing and all that. If your podcast idea is like me and my friend talk about movies, that's a lot easier. You just sit in the room and you turn the mic on, and you know. But the production quality and like the quality of the final product of like narrative fiction shows is I think, and because the quality is better and the quality is more, I should say, not better, but you know, there's been more care put into it. I think people will recognize that, and because the pool is smaller, I think narrative shows do, at least we find their audience a little bit easier because there's not as much mud in that water. There's a lot of podcasts of two white guys talking about movies. We don't need any more of those. But like a well-scripted, beautiful story, like we love that. So that's just my personal opinion, but yeah, that's how I feel.
Anyone else? Is there an audience? Do you see audience appetite?
There is audience appetite. Like some of them have taken off. I think it's a bit tougher, but there's lots of like you were saying, there's lots of space, I think, in that area. You know, and there have been some hit series, and I think there's room for more. That's an area that I specifically love and would love to see grow, is scripted, because I personally love listening to it, and I just think there's so much potential there. But I think that type of podcast does have trouble finding an audience, and I'm not sure why.
Maybe they'll have an easier time now with Amazon Music's discovery tools.
Write me. Write me, we'll promote it. We'll do a whole section of scripted podcasts.
Any other questions?
I was just curious to know if anything has ever, kind of podcast-wise, ever been adapted into like a TV show. I didn't know if that has ever been a thing where I'm going to tell a story, or I'm going to create a concept, and it's going to be a podcast, it's going to be great, people are going to love it, and then people are wanting a visual to that story or to that voice or to whatever they're being told.
Yeah, I would say there's been a few
Yeah.
that have done it.
Wondery's done a bunch. But yeah, there's a lot of examples I could give there. Not anything out of our catalog, that would be great. But yeah, there's a lot of precedent for that.
I think that's the dream, right? Podcasting is a relatively cheap testing platform to, test concepts, see how they fly, and then do the adaptation. So I think that's the concept. Yeah.
Is there a pipeline from Amazon Music to Amazon Prime?
Yeah. Well, we actually don't make any content, but we do, Wondery is part of Amazon Music, and and Wondery definitely turns a lot of their podcasts into TV shows. So there's definitely, I think a lot of organizations do have, I see more and more in different companies I work with, a pipeline to go from podcast to television.
You guys see dozens and dozens of shows come across your desk. that are monetizing in different ways. Can each of you give an example of maybe a show that you really like that's created a good niche, and then maybe there's something that they have done to build their audience that that we can learn from? Is there a tenacious creator that comes to mind and you say, hey, this show and this person is doing something really well?
I always love talking about Canadian true crime. Do you know Canadian true crime? Because, yeah. Australian talking about Canadian crimes has developed a massive audience. And just through her voice, through her relationships, through her ability to tell a story, that would be one that I would say, never add video to, because whatever she's doing with her voice and with her audience is perfect, and continues to grow, and she continues to thrive, and it's all through her ability to retell a story in her own distinct way.
Yeah, that's good. She's great. I think for me, the first thing that came to mind when you asked that was, well, we have a podcast on our network that is all about the hit reality TV show Vanderpump Rules, which recently, big scandal happened there. The internet was abuzz. The Scandival, it was called.
Oh, we know.
You know, yeah. And his show immediately went from like a modest following to like one of our larger shows, pretty much overnight because of this scandal. So I think what he did really well was he went into crisis mode. He was like, okay, people are listening. He tried to find what this audience was liking and tried to try to retain them and continue to build the audience, because he knew when this scandal was done, a lot of them would go away. So just trying to, seeing people are here for this, identifying like why we got this influx of listeners, what do they like, and keep doing that. And so, it was impressive to watch him really hustle in that time to be like, and be self-aware enough to be like, this is not me. I'm not doing this. The zeitgeist is doing this, but how do I utilize that to keep this audience? So, yeah.
My local example is also Canadian true crime, because love that show. But I'm thinking just like a few different examples. These are mostly from the US, but there was a parenting podcast whose name escapes me a while ago. I don't even think it exists anymore. But they had such a vibrant Facebook group where people, because the content is so open to building community and having your audience talk to each other, it really lent itself well to a Facebook group. And there's another podcast that actually used to be a sponsored podcast, but now is the best one yet. It's called T-Boy, and it's all about a daily finance podcast that I'm secretly obsessed with. Anyway, but they do this amazing thing at the end of their show where they wish people a happy birthday, and you can write in and they'll say happy birthday to you, which is such a small thing, but it really builds a sense of community. It's this weird thing.
It's like breakfast television.
Pardon? Do they?
Like breakfast television, yes.
Oh, do they do that on breakfast television too?
I think they read.
I don't know, but depending on who your audience is, there's very creative ways you can build your audience and build a community that makes people feel very dedicated to your show. And I just think those are some interesting examples.
Hi. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
We are neighbors, anyway. Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know that I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but I'm working with this company in LA called MoviePod, and it's a brand new company, so who knows whether it's going to work, but I'm getting one of my scripts read as a podcast, and we're breaking it down into episodes, which is a brand new thing for me because I've never done that before. But anyway, I just wanted to share that because I have no idea if it's going to work, but you have to try. MoviePod.
Believe in yourself. That's what I say.
Yeah, it's a big thing we say at PodCamp and the Canadian Podcast Awards to anyone who's how do I start, or should I start? Is just, or they're waiting for the perfect moment, or they want their content to be perfect right out the gate. It's well, it's not going to be. Just try it. There's no real harm in failing and trying something new the next time, and. I think most people who do have podcasts, when they listen to their first few episodes, they cringe so hard. So you're never going to avoid, having those first few episodes being something you're not happy with. So just put them out together, and that's the only way you can get better is by.
It's like the first pancake, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
It's always a
yeah,
disaster.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's
just
like-
do it.
And yeah, you definitely would cringe hearing yourself and like your ability to host a show. But also, I think the one thing it would be good to maybe think ahead of time when you're about to start is audio quality. Starting with good audio quality, I think, is worth the time and a little bit of money. You don't need even much to get something simple, because if it's just bad, it's like when it's unlistenable. I think even I had to say this from experience because now our first couple of episodes are not available because the audio quality was so bad. So we had to hide it because it's kind of embarrassing. So yeah.
Thanks. I had a question about putting it up online or what have you. I put one up on my website, and I just edited it on Premiere Pro, and I put the video picture of the title and the content. Yeah, and I'm just wondering what the next steps are to take it to, say, other platforms. What do you have to pay? Obviously, I think you must, or is it just, and the advertising sort of, I come in here a little later, sorry, you might have already talked about it.
I guess.
So I guess you just put it up on your website. Did you make an RSS feed for it or anything, or is it just hosted on your website?
Yeah, I just put it up for the first sample kind of thing.
So you may need to contact Acast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd want to talk to a hosting platform to get
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I do have, a website hoster, but I don't know if they're separate, are they?
Yeah, it's podcast hosting is different.
Yeah.
It's a whole RSS thing. And there's lots of options on there. Acast is a great one, and there's also, free options as well. But yeah. If you Google how to start a podcast,
Yeah, I know. I've done that. There's a lot to read. Yeah, I'm getting through it. Thanks.
A really good resource that's free that's out there is transom.org, transom.org, and they will recommend like equipment, like services, like they'll give you a bunch of analysis. It's like a good place to start for information on like what equipment should I buy? Like where do I start?
Yeah, to get it onto iTunes or Spotify or Amazon Music, you need to have an RSS feed. So that's the next step, is to find a hosting provider that will help you with your RSS feed.
So podcasts range wildly from DIY to scripted to celebrity-driven, chat fests, which is essentially branded content. What are you looking for? Are you taking pitches, and what's the economics of that look like? Like, what are you interested in, and what do you want to hear? Obviously, if we have a celebrity, then you want to hear about it. But what else would you be interested in? And is the celebrity thing still happening, or is that dying off?
I think it's definitely very much happening. Podcasting, yeah, right, like it has evolved, and there's anything from like someone recording something into their phone for nobody, all the way to like whatever, Joe Rogan and his $100 million deal at Spotify. And both of those are podcasts, and everything in between is a podcast. So, and that's okay. It's like whatever you want to do with it, whatever you want it to be. But yeah, the celebrity thing is definitely here, and it's here to stay. That's when we are looking for. The question is when we're taking pitches, we don't just look for following, but that's a big part of it. So a celebrity would be an enticing pitch to us because they have a following built in. But also if it's a project that we believe in that seems really cool and is doing something different, not two guys talking about movies, unless one of those guys is a celebrity, then we're talking. It's the unfortunate. That's just the nature of the beast right now with us. Yeah, but I can't speak for anyone else.
I think an interesting tangent on that is, what are advertisers looking for from podcasters when you're pitching to them to try and get their, ad dollars? Are they looking for like a sell sheet, or you have to have like a whole like guide built for them about your show?
Yeah,
Like,
you'll have an understanding of who each of your podcasters is, what audience they reach, and they'll come to you and say, we want men 18 to 24 that drink beer. And then we work to find how we can access that audience. And oftentimes they lean towards specific things like sports. So sports content is something that's always very desirable to clients, as is certain regions. So another area where clients are always interested in French-speaking Quebec is an attractive audience for them as well. So yeah, they have a distinct profile of who they're looking to reach. We provide them with a list of podcasters and or categories that will be able to reach them. And then hopefully that married together will make a successful ad campaign.
and Michael, do you do anything differently when you're doing like pitches directly to advertisers, or?
I mean, yeah, it's basically the same as what she said, yeah.
All right,
And
great.
she's the expert. So.
Question here in the front.
Mine's really quick, but it's just, what is one of your favorite podcasts that you're listening to or that you enjoy right now?
I'll go. I always listen to Canada Land each week. I listen to Canadian True Crime, and then if I have one weird one, it's Sasquatch Chronicles. I'm obsessed with Sasquatch. Same.
Is it like Sasquatch hunters, like looking for?
Yes.
Oh, I'm in. I'm in.
So good.
Oh,
Unscripted, it's just people get interviewed that have had Sasquatch sightings, and I believe it. I can see that being scripted. Oh, no, unscripted. It's
Just truth and facts.
just truth and facts.
Next, Michael.
oh, me to answer that question. There's a podcast I'm listening. So the podcast that I've probably always been listening to since as far back as I can remember is a show called Comedy Bang Bang, which I love and I've always loved, and it's great, and I still listen right now. But what I've been listening to lately is a little show called Till Death Do Us Blart, which is 5 people that watch the movie Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 every year, once a year, every year until they die. And they call it the first eternal podcast because when one of them dies, they have to replace it with another person so that the podcast can go forever. Yeah, and right now I'm on 2016, where they're talking about what a bad year that was. So strap in, guys. Anyway, sorry, I'll pass to Lindsay.
I'm kind of boring because I'm a news junkie, so I just listen to like Front Burner and then The Daily and Today Explained every day. And then I try to like listen to like some big series also, whatever like true crime series or a comedy series is happening. Like my guilty pleasure is How Did This Get Made, which I've listened to forever and I cannot stop. And then also that personal, that finance, daily finance podcast, T-Boy.
How do you spell that?
TBOY, which is the best one yet.
Ah, okay,
That's
great.
why, yeah.
Yeah, you stole a few of mine. You know, I listen to mostly Front Burner, Power and Politics.
Oh,
But I guess some shows I listen to a little less frequently. I met my wife actually through a podcast called Keith and the Girl. So I listen to that occasionally. Any other questions?
Nice shirt. Hi, this might not be as applicable to Michael, so sorry. But do you find that the laws around advertising to children online affect your jobs in any way? Like when you're making discovery lists, or like obviously you can't, or can you even advertise on those shows? I imagine not, but interested to hear what you think without
Yeah.
giving legal advice.
We don't monetize children's content.
Yeah, neither do we.
I'm not involved in the advertising part of it, so I can't really speak to it.